Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to Chapter 3. We're talking about biologically important molecules. We just finished up talking about monosaccharides and disaccharides. We talked about the two different groups of sugars. Our last group of sugar is a polysaccharide, and these are sugars and these are starches. These are not just one or two rings linked together. This is hundreds. This is thousands of rings linked together. Polysaccharides have a number of functions. Examples are starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Cellulose. What is it? It's a sugar. How do you know? It ends in OSE. Starch is long-term energy storage for plants. Glycogen is short-term energy storage for animals, and cellulose is a structural component for plants. Cellulose. Wood is cellulose. Our three polysaccharides. Starch, as we said, starch is long-term energy storage for plants. Any kind of a starchy food that you're eating was made from plants. Specifically, it was probably made from plant seeds. Potatoes aren't plant seeds, but that is the energy storage for the potato plant, the potato itself. We can see that it's just a whole bunch of sugar rings. When they're all linked together, we see that oxygen down there at the bottom, all linking them together. That goes into making the starch. Glycogen is sometimes called animal starch, but the difference is, there's a couple of differences. The first difference is starch is not branched, whereas glycogen is branched. See these branches coming off my main line here? Glycogen is branched, starch is not. Glycogen. Glyc means sugar, gen means to make or to create, so glycogen means sugar maker. So what happens when you eat a meal is you take in enough sugar in that meal to kill yourself. Diabetics, right? Don't diabetics have to watch their sugar very, very closely to make sure that they don't take in so much sugar that they kill themselves? You take in enough sugar in any one meal to kill yourself. It's the job of insulin, made by your pancreas, to tell your liver to take that extra sugar out of your blood and to store it. And the liver says, fine, I'll do that. And the way the liver does it is it takes all those monosaccharides out of your blood system, out of your cardiovascular system, and will string them together temporarily as this molecule called glycogen. Your liver is now holding a savings account of energy because our body's going to break the sugar down and use it for energy. So as you go throughout the rest of your day, your brain tells the liver, hey, my blood sugar is going down, give me some of that sugar back. And here's where the sugar maker comes in. What happens is the liver says, gotcha, and takes this complex polysaccharide called glycogen and begins to snip off separate individual little sugar rings and starts to dump those monosaccharides back into your bloodstream so that your muscles and can use up that sugar to power yourself. Glycogen. Short-term energy storage for animals. Starch is long-term energy storage for plants. Short-term. How short-term is short-term? Short-term means hours. If you go to bed at night with a liver full of glycogen, your body is really happy because you just saved away a whole bunch of energy for a rainy day. As you sleep, your body will go through the very, very difficult process of converting a sugar into the stuff that we call fat. Converting sugar into fat takes a long time, which is why your body does it while you sleep. So this is why they tell you don't eat after 8 p.m. because after 8 p.m., what are you going to do to work off that energy that you've taken in? And the answer is nothing. You're not going to do anything after 8 o'clock to work off that energy. Our last polysaccharide is cellulose, down here at the bottom. Starch is energy storage for plants. Glycogen is energy storage for animals. Cellulose is structural components for plants. Plants don't eat the cellulose they make. Animals can't eat cellulose. Animals can't eat wood. Notice how there is a very specific bond that is different in cellulose versus glycogen and starch. Notice how the oxygens here are always on the bottom. See that? But if we look at the cellulose, some of the oxygens are on the bottom and some are on the top. Notice that? See how it's flipped up and down, back and forth? This changing of the direction of these bonds makes it so that the enzymes that we have that we use to break down polysaccharides can't bind to cellulose, which that means animals can't break down cellulose. Well, what about termites? They eat wood. Yes, termites do eat wood. However, the termite cannot break down the cellulose. The termite has bacteria in its guts that can. So the bacteria break down cellulose for the termite. The termite can't break it down itself. These are all polysaccharides. We move from polysaccharides to lipids. Lipids are fats. They are made of the same stuff as carbohydrates. They're made of CHO. But that's really where the similarity between the two molecules ends. Carbohydrates are made of CHO in that 1 to 2 to 1 ratio, and they are rings. Carbohydrates, we didn't say this before when we talked about carbs, I'll say it now. Carbohydrates are polar, which means they can dissolve in water. They've got oxygen and hydrogen attached to each other, which means it's got weak positive and negative areas. If you're going to mix with water, you have to have those positive and negative areas. Does sugar dissolve in water? Have you made Kool-Aid? Yes, sugar dissolves in water. Carbohydrates are polar. Carbohydrates are rings. Carbohydrates have that very specific ratio, 1 to 2 to 1, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Lipids, the only thing they share with carbohydrates is they're made of the same stuff, CHO. Lipids are straight chains. They're not rings. Lipids, they have the CHO, the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, but it's not in any specific ratio. And last, lipids. Lipids are fats and oils. Oil and water don't mix. Oil and water don't mix. If you can't mix with water, it means you're not polar. You don't have positive and negative areas. Why don't oil and water mix? Lipids cannot dissolve into water because they are non-polar. They don't have those positive and negative areas. Glycogen was short-term energy storage for animals. Lipids are long-term energy storage for animals. Fat, long-term energy storage. Lipids also bang for your buck, ounce for ounce, gram for gram. You get more than twice as much energy from lipids as you get from carbohydrates. So you get 4 calories per gram from carbs. You get 4 calories per gram from proteins. You get 9 calories per gram from fats. This is why fried things taste good. This is why fried chicken tastes good. This is why fried potatoes, French fries, taste good. This is why fried pies taste good. This is why fried candy bars taste good. Let me tell you a little story. A number of years ago, I was at the Georgia National Fair. It is always my goal when I go to the Georgia National Fair to find something that has been battered, deep fried, and put on a stick that had no business battered, deep fried, and put on a stick. It was my goal at this particular fair to find a fried candy bar. And after much searching and looking, I finally found one as we were going out. My wife was like, "It's time to go." And I said, "No, I haven't found my candy bar yet." And she's like, "Fine, go find your candy bar." So I found a candy bar. It was a fried Snickers. And I took a bite. Holy crap, it was the richest thing I had ever tasted in my life. I gave a bite to my wife, and she was like, oh, no, I don't want any more of that. I gave some to my 4th grader son, and he's like, thanks, Dad, I don't want any more either. I give some to my kindergarten age son, and he takes a bite. And so we've all had a bite now of this candy bar, and it's half gone. And I paid $8 for this freaking candy bar. And everybody's like, nope, I don't want any more. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding? I have to eat the whole rest of this thing myself? As I am bringing the candy bar up to my mouth, to force myself to eat this. In the back of my head, a little voice said, even the kindergartner knew not to eat this trash. And I was like, and I threw it away. Fried almost anything tastes good.